Welcome to your next Quadratic Equations training video. We're going to talk about the third method. But before we do, we're going to take a look just at the general equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. Now this says to solve for x, we're going to use completing the square because I don't know how to factor when I have an a and a c. And so I'm going to follow the steps from the last video. I'm going to divide everything by the leading coefficient. Divide everything by a. So then I have x squared plus b over ax plus c over a equals 0 divided by a is just 0 as long as a is not 0. Which we're assuming it's not, because then this would be a linear equation. Alright, then I need to move the constant over. I'm going to subtract c over a. Then to complete the square, I need to find half of the middle term. So that's going to be b over a times 1/2, so b over 2a. And that's eventually what it's going to factor to have in it, right? It should be x plus b over 2a. We'll get to that in a minute though. In order for it to factor to be that, I need to add that middle term divided by 2 squared. So I'm going to add b over 2a squared. Add that to both sides. When you multiply that squared in, it's going to be b squared over 2a squared, which is 4a to the second power. Okay. I have two fractions. In order to combine fractions, I need a common denominator. So I'm going to take that 4a squared and multiply it by add negative c over a, multiply the top and the bottom by 4a so that I have 4a squared. That becomes negative 4ac. Oh, this started to look familiar. 4a squared plus b squared over 4a squared. Alright, now I have common denominator. I can combine those. Negative 4ac plus b squared over 4a squared. Alright. So that's what I have on my right side of the equation here. All over 4a squared. And let's switch colors again. Having fun. Alright, because I have a square root, I gave it away. Because I have something being squared on the left side, I can square root it. Square root both sides here, and I have a plus and a minus. So I have on the left side, x plus b over 2a is equal to plus or minus the square root of, let's go ahead and put the b squared first, you know why. And then on the bottom, I have the square root of 4a squared. Square root of 4 is 2, square root of a squared is a, so that's just a 2a. And let's move the b over 2a to the right hand side by subtracting it, plus or minus. Because they both have the same denominator, I can just put it all over the same 2a. And that should look very familiar to you. Your best friend, the quadratic formula. Whew, very nice. When you don't complete the square and you can't factor, this is your method number 3, is using the quadratic formula. And we were able to prove it using completing the square from the last video. Here it is in all of its glory. Remember, a represents the leading coefficient, b the middle, and c is the constant. In order to use the quadratic formula, you do have to have 0 on one side. That's very important to have that 0, or else your a, b, and c will not be correct. Let's try it with this problem. Already we need to move over that one so that we have a 0 on one side. A is 5, b is 15, and c is -1. Common mistake, of course, is losing that negative. So help your students remember that the minus becomes a negative when you plug it in. And then from here, it's just plugging and chugging, plugging things in. Opposite of b, of course, there's songs to remember this one. Your student might have a way to remember it. You can help them out with that. Brother Bear's got some good ones. You can ask him. He's got some good songs. B squared, 15 squared is 225. Minus 4 times a times c. Just plugging things in. Over 2 times a 2 times 5. And then from here, you just simplify the radical that you have, the expression. So 225 minus 4 times positive 5 is negative 20, but then we have a negative 1, so it'll be 225 plus 20, or 245 all over 10. Okay, and we can simplify this under the radical. We have 245, that is actually 49 times 5, so we've got a perfect square there. That can come out 7/5 over 10. Okay, you can leave it like this. You can also separate the two fractions. And of course you can simplify with the 5s in the first part of the fraction, so you could also write this negative 3/2 plus or minus 7/5 over 10. Final answer. Or you can leave it in this method. Sorry, in this, the way it's written there. Either way. Okay, that is using the quadratic formula. It's a lot of plugging things in and then simplifying. So just help your students to understand that process. Remember, you now have 3 different ways to solve quadratic equations. One way is to factor it. Oftentimes that'll be an easy one as long as it factors. Complete the square. And our third method is the quadratic formula. Okay. Some students will prefer completing the square, some will prefer quadratic formula, some really like to factor. So you want to be able to help your students with any of those methods. Before you go to the next video, we need to talk about one more thing with the quadratic formula, and that is the thing called the discriminant, which is just the radicand, the thing underneath of the radical in the formula. This tells you it is a discriminant, and it tells you how many solutions there are for x. So for example, if you're doing this and you get a negative value for the discriminant, meaning there's a negative under the square root, that means there's no real solutions even before you find everything else. No real solutions there because you're going to have a negative square root. But you will have, of course, 2 imaginary solutions because you'll have a negative number there. So no real solutions, but 2 imaginary solutions. Let's say it's positive. Okay, greater than 0. That means when you plug it in, you'll get some number. It might be a whole number, it might not. That's okay. But if you get a positive, you can take the square root of it. So you will have 2 real solutions and no imaginary solutions. Let's say it is 0. Is equal to 0. That means, before I even plug anything in, I have plus or minus the square root of 0, which is just 0. That means I'm only going to have negative b over 2a. I'm not going to have a plus or a minus. Right? I'm just going to have the square root of 0. And so that means there is only one answer. And it is real. One real solution. Remember, quadratic equations can have up to 2 answers, but that means they can also have just one, which is this case here. The discriminant is going to be very helpful for you in the next video, which is about graphing. Go ahead and watch it.